Hey everyone, I'm your astrologer, Brittany of Ethereal Astrology, taking you to new heights with inspired perspectives that transcend the details. Today, you're watching your astrology horoscope for the full moon in the sign of Cancer, which occurs on Tuesday, December 26, 2024 at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time or 4:33 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, what I think is going on here at this full moon in Cancer is that we are feeling frustrated and confused about our life, what's happened in the past, and what our next steps are here in life. That's actually making us very emotional, sensitive, I think upset and angry here, and triggering, I think, a lot of wounds within ourselves that could possibly be connected here as well to home and family. That can be very hard, but is actually going to bring great insight here about our situation and get us on a better track to getting the answers that it is that we need. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please do stay tuned. Before I hop into that though, I do want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas here, because of course this full moon happens a day after Christmas and it looks a little rough here. Not only do I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, but also a happy holidays to those of you as well. I hope that you have a good one, the best you can here, and stay safe out there on the roads. Now let's go ahead and hop into this video. In order to get started, what I always like to do first is just place on the chart what it is that I'm referring to here so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for the full moon in Cancer. Because of that, I have adjusted my chart accordingly. I know that because I've got the moon here in Cancer, 4 degrees, making an exact opposition over here to the sun in Capricorn here at 4 degrees. And when the moon opposes the sun here, this is what is considered a full moon. So this is a full moon in Cancer here that we have. Okay, now what are full moons about? To go deeper into the interpretation here. Well, full moons here are halfway through the lunar month, the lunar cycle, and they're a lot about stepping into things that we've really been working on for quite some time, since the last new moon, but possibly even before that. Okay, and not only are full moons about stepping into things that we've been working towards for quite some time, but because that is when the moon is full, it's about bringing things to completion or fulfillment here and finishing things that we've been working on. Okay, not only that, but another thing too that I need to note about full moons is that they also too tend to bring insight or illumination, because that's also when not only the moon is the biggest here, but the brightest in the sky as well. So insights perhaps about things that maybe we didn't see before here. Not only that, but another thought too about full moons is that sometimes they can bring decisions that might need to be made, since a full moon is a function of an opposition, as you see here, and it's hard to do two opposite things at once, right? You usually need to make some kind of compromise or decision here as well. That's going on. Okay, what is it now that we are stepping into or fulfilling and completing or getting insight on here, maybe even making decisions about? Well, that's Cancer, because that is the sign here that of course the full moon is in. What is Cancer about? Well, Cancer, what we mostly know it by is about our emotions here, being a water sign ruled by the moon, where it is here. That's going on, especially more of the personal and private emotions that maybe we don't show others, since Cancer is a very personal and private sign. So that's one of the things here that's going on. We're stepping into more emotions or a more full experience of our emotions and the personal and private ones that we don't show other people, and getting insight about those that may lead to some decisions. And not only that, Cancer too, I think, has to do with our sense of self in a lot of ways, since it is the bottom of the chart here and rules our foundation in life. And a lot of times our foundation is our sense of self and how we see ourselves from the inside out here as well, and where our wellspring of strength comes from in life too. So not only at this full moon are we stepping into a more full expression of our emotions to try to get insight around those, especially more personal and private emotions that we don't show others, and figure out what to do next with that, but we're also stepping into a more full expression of who we are as a person, of our sense of self, and trying to get insight around what that is, and how we might need to proceed next here in this situation. Okay? Not only that, but other things about Cancer here as well is that it also too does have to do with our home, our living space, and family here, which I especially want to mention because it's the holidays, right? And that's happening right after Christmas when we spend a lot of time with family here. So this may also bring here increased time with home and family, or focus on home and family matters here, and really trying to get insight about those things and trying to figure out as well what decisions you might need to make there too that can start to come into the picture here at this time. Okay, that is going on. All right. And I think that's all that's coming to me for the time being here about this full moon in Cancer. Stepping into more full emotional expression here, or feeling our feelings more and getting insights about those, stepping more into our sense of self and figuring out what that is, and stepping more into matters with home and family to also get insights and figure out those here as well. Okay, now before I move forward to give you more details about those themes, because there's a lot more going on than just that, I do like to go backwards in time for a minute here before I go forwards. And I do like to go backwards in time here before I go forwards, just to give you more of the context of how we got here and of why these themes are now coming up to be explored, because I think that the context can actually change a lot of what each lunation is about. So I'm going to do that. I do like to go very far back to around 2020 here. So I'm going to start there. But if you've already heard this before or just aren't interested, totally fine. I'm going to put the timestamp on these videos so that you can easily switch ahead to a different point in the video if you would like. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the context now. And I, of course, like to start with an alignment that happened roughly in between January to April of 2020. Okay, and January, April of 2020, we had Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all come conjunct around the middle to late degrees here of Capricorn. Now, this was a very rare and uncomfortable alignment. This is a very rare alignment here because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct every 35 years, and not always with Jupiter there. That's even more rare. And not only is it rare because of that, but it's difficult because Saturn and Pluto do tend to be more challenging planets, especially being a little further from where we live here on Earth. And Jupiter was in Capricorn, a sign it doesn't really like to be, and not really helping us out that much. So this was very rare and difficult. What was the rare difficulty that came up? Well, Saturn usually indicates some kind of stuckness a lot of times in our life, and especially in the direction that our life is going in, with it being in Capricorn, which may have accumulated over the course of 35 years prior to that. Not only does it indicate us feeling stuck, but with it conjunct Pluto, it indicates us really needing to make some uncomfortable change. Pluto's about change. That can be hard in order to overcome this stuckness or these circumstances in our life that may have persisted for many years that we don't like. And Jupiter exaggerates that to make that very big change that's uncomfortable, change that's needed here at that time. So that's our starting point. January to April 2020, we realize something's not right in my life, hasn't been for a while. I feel stuck, need to make big, uncomfortable changes in order to get out of it here and to move on, which I think we then started to do. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which happened 2 days later here, or sorry, 2 years later, which was going to be that new moon solar eclipse here in the sign of Taurus, right about here. I want to say around April or May of 2022. Let's say April of 2022. Okay, what was that all about? Well, new moons are all about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Here, solar eclipses superpower that and make that very significant here. And it was in Taurus, and Taurus is a lot about fertility and abundance here, and in beauty, beautiful things starting to manifest in a more tangible way, with it being an earth sign ruled by Venus. So I think in April of 2022, what happened is that we started to feel like we had changed and ended enough of the old stuff that we didn't like, so that we were finally arriving in a better experience of life that was more beautiful, more fertile, more abundant, with more opportunities here that we could then work with to form better circumstances after that point. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which occurred about 2 weeks after that. okay, which was also in April of 2022. And at that time, we had a full moon lunar eclipse here in the opposite sign of Scorpio conjunct the South Node. Now, that was a bit difficult. That was a bit difficult because sometimes full moons can be a little harder than new moons, but especially because it was conjunct the South Node, and the South Node is hard because the South Node is about natural habits and traits and tendencies that we have that we feel comfortable in, but that are no longer useful at this time for our journey and for what we want to accomplish that we need to let go of, which can be hard to do. Here, what were the traits? And it can make us feel stuck, right? It can also make us feel stuck too, okay? So we were feeling stuck here because of unhelpful traits that are no longer useful. What are those unhelpful traits that we had that are no longer useful that were keeping us stuck? Well, they're Scorpio traits because that's where the eclipse was in the South Node. And Scorpio can be, again, unhelpful. That's how we're referring to it. Can be about getting too intertwined with relationships and other people. It can also be about indulging too many of our emotions, especially the negative ones from the past. Can also be as well about spending too much money here and making too many changes that is no longer useful for our new experience here that's going on that we needed to let go of. Not only was that lunar eclipse about us needing to let go of relying too much on people, spending too much money, making too many change, indulging so many of these negative emotions, but it was also about us too beginning to realize that we needed to cultivate the opposite traits more with the North Node in Taurus. And Taurus is more independent, more self-reliant. Here it's also as well more stable, secure, doesn't make changes much. It's also about saving money or making money here that's going on here, and being more confident in ourselves and our situations here that's happening. So that's what we started to realize April of 2022. I'm in a new experience after making a lot of changes to get here in life. It's fertile, abundant, it's great, but now I'm stuck because all the habits I used to have in life are no longer working to build this new beginning. And the habits that are no longer working is me getting too involved with other people, making too many changes, spending too much money. That's not good anymore. I need to drop those habits and become more stable, more secure, maybe even slower, less change, more self-reliant, making money, all of that. Okay, and I think that was a good realization to get, but if I can be honest, I think it took us almost all year to really get that through our heads, because that was a very big and significant realization. And I think it took us almost all year here because we needed Mars to go retrograde in Gemini at the end of 2022. Of course, Gemini is about our mindset and our beliefs, and the Mars retrograde helping us to readjust those. We also needed Mercury, also about our mindset, to go retrograde as well in Capricorn. The same exact degree is that the Jupiter-Pluto-Saturn conjunction happened years earlier. And that Mercury retrograde happened January of this year, now 2023. Getting all my years confused between 23 and 2024, but I'm pretty sure, right? We're in 2023. It happened this year, the very beginning of it, January 2023, Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. And I think at that time, we finally started to get it through our heads, Mercury. We finally started to get it through our heads that we needed to be more stable, more secure, more self-reliant, more independent, to make money and to stop spending and to change less. Here that's going on. Not only in January of 2023 did we start to get it through our head, but I think also in January 2023, we started to make a few other small tweaks here with ourselves, relationships, and money to be stable, secure, self-reliant, saving money, thrifty, all of that here, and bring more things together towards that end. Okay, which I thought was meant to be helpful. That then leads me now to the next alignments that I want to mention, which happened around the same time, maybe in a few weeks of each other, somewhere around March of also this year, 2023. And around that time, we had two planets change signs very significantly. Pluto left Capricorn and entered Aquarius briefly, and Saturn left Aquarius and entered Pisces briefly. Now, still there. And that's very important here because they're two slower moving planets. And when slower moving planets change signs, they bring significant shifts and chapter changes in our lives because they don't do it that often here to kind of change the story. And I think to change the story more towards the new and better experience of life that we had started to see in April of 2022, a year prior to that. And that's because Pluto moving into Aquarius is a lot about the future, feeling more ready for the future and for new innovative experiences to occur. And because Saturn was in Pisces, Pisces is about releasing the past so that we can start over again. Okay, so in March 2023, we felt like, okay, we've got the right perspective to start back at this fertile new beginning that came in April of 2022 to do it again or right or better in some sort of way here. That was going on. That was happening. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was somewhere around April now of this year, 2023. Around April of this year, 2023, we then had a solar eclipse here in the sign of Aries at the very last degree here. What is that about? Again, new moons are about new beginnings. Solar eclipses are about our superpower, the new beginnings. And Aries is a lot about a new start, being the first sign of the zodiac, and action, taking action towards that here yet again. So I do think that in April of 2023, now that we had got the right perspective, slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty, we then tried to move forward even more into this new and different and better experience of life to make it more of a positive thing here that was going on. Okay, but even though we then tried to do it, I think after that, we then started to run into difficulties, especially I want to say about a month later in May of 2023. Okay, of this year. And I think we ran into difficulty because Mars went retrograde at that time here in the sign of Venus. Venus went retrograde. The Mercury retrograde is getting my mind lately, but Venus went retrograde here in the sign of Leo. Okay, which I thought was a bit difficult here. And this was a bit difficult because it's a planet that's going retrograde, of course, and it's a personal planet, which here, of course, has things to do with more of our current experience and things that are closer to us. So this to me was very difficult. Not only was this difficult, but it did indicate us still not being able to make forward progress and forward momentum in the way that we might like here, and feeling stuck, again, with it being a planet that was going retrograde. Here that's going on. Why were we feeling stuck and unable to make progress on this new beginning yet again? Well, the retrograde was happening in Leo, and Leo is a lot about happiness and understanding what makes us happy and what's in our heart and what we love to do and enjoy, which you can consider an emotion here, and about living in the present moment. So I think we were finding it difficult to move forward on this new beginning here because we were really struggling to connect with our heart and what makes us happy and what we love to do in our emotions after everything that we had been through that was very hard in the years prior, especially the good emotions here going on. That was very frustrating. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which I believe was about 2 months later, July-ish, July of this year, 2023, we had Pluto at the last degree of Capricorn make a square to the nodal axis, which includes the south node in Libra and the north node in Aries. So let's do that, July of 23. Hey, that was also difficult here, indicating us feeling even more stuck, because when a planet squares the nodes, it's called a skip step, making us just feel stuck, unable to move forward. Not only was this making us feel even more stuck, unable to move into this different experience of life, but a lot of times when planets square the nodes, they required big choices, especially with Pluto involved, in order to get unstuck. Here, that can be quite scary, and big choices that can be quite scary, really with the opposite point of Pluto in Cancer to honor more of our emotions. So in July of 2023, we realized super stuck, not moving forward yet again, and that we needed to make big choices, sweeping change in our lives here to honor more of our emotions than we ever have in recent memory in order to get unstuck here, which we did do, I believe, at that time. Okay, which then leads me to the next alignment that I want to mention here. I believe it was around October, we had a lunar eclipse here in the sign of Taurus. Here, I think it was October of 2023. And that happened. Full moons are all about stepping into things we've been working towards for a while. Eclipse is superpower. That Taurus is a lot about alignment as well with our needs and values and the things that are important to us. So I think because we had made those changes to honor more of our emotions, we then started to feel more in alignment with our true self here and our needs and values, which was very, very good. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be more recent, of course, and it's going to be Mercury here going retrograde. It started going retrograde around December, yeah, just like 2 weeks ago, December of 2023. Hey, what is that about? Well, Mercury was retrograde in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a lot about what's new and different here that we're going to do next after all of this. It's also too about wisdom and understanding about our situation, which includes what has happened in the past, where we are now, and again, what we want to do next after this point. And Mercury retrograde can make that unclear here, unclear of what we want to do next here, now that we've figured some of this stuff out, now that we've lived more in alignment and honored more of our emotions, and unclear about what to make of the situation here that's going on, that I think can be very frustrating and very difficult for us. And because now we've been trying to figure out here what we're going to do next, now that we've honored our emotions and living life more in alignment and how to make sense of our life, and we've really been struggling to do it. This full moon in Cancer now happening December 26th here, we're trying to go deeper into our emotions and into our personal feelings about ourself and our life and our private life and what's going on there, in order to see if that will help us get some of the answers that it is that we need about what's happened in our lives and about what our next steps are. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, and that's quite a lot now. I'm just going to repeat all of that one last time here without all the astrological jargon. So let me do that. What I think is the larger picture context of this full moon in Cancer here is that we're finally, as of a few months ago, living in a different experience of life that's more aligned with ourselves and our true nature and our emotions, which is very positive. But even though we're living a life that's more aligned with our true selves, we're still confused and uncertain about how we got here and why we got here and what it all means and what we're going to do next. That's been very frustrating for us here. And because that's been very frustrating, we're trying to go deeper within ourselves and our emotions in order to try to figure that out and get insights and answers that we need in order to move things forward and get the clarity that we want. Okay. So this is going on. Because I'm done with that, now I'm going to zoom back in here to this full moon itself and to the alignments that are happening here in connection with it. So I'm going to do that. And I actually, going to be honest, I actually am not going to start with the full moon itself at this point. I'm going to kind of move back and forth between a bunch of things that are happening here, because I think this is a little bit of an interesting full moon, to say the least, here. And I think that's going to help me better explain the messages that I'm getting. So I actually want to start back here first with the fact that Mercury and Mars at the time of this full moon are coming into a conjunction here with one another in the sign of Sagittarius. That's going on. So let's start with that, and then I'll work myself to the full moon. Hey, what is this about here? This is a very frustrating alignment. Let's start with that. This is very frustrating because we have Mercury here still retrograde, which is difficult, being in a direction it's moving, it doesn't typically move in. Not only is it frustrating because of that, but Mercury's in Sagittarius, also a sign that it just doesn't really care for. In addition to that, Mercury is also making a connection here with Mars. And while there can be some good things about Mars, Mars can be a bit aggressive at times and can be a bit challenging here too, because Mars tends to push things more than they really might need to be or are ready to be at a certain time. May push things that can create a lot of frustration, I need to note, internally, and can even create anger. Mars can bring a lot of anger and arguments here with ourselves and others. What is it here that we are frustrated about or angry about or upset about or argumentative about here? Well, both Mercury and Mars are in the sign of Sagittarius. Again, Sagittarius is about our belief systems and how we understand life, what has happened to us in the past, what's going on right now, and what we want new and different to happen to us after this point. Okay. And with the Mercury retrograde, there's some confusion there. And with the Mars, we're trying to push answers before we really have them, making us frustrated, angry, and upset. So that's the first thing I think that's important to note at this full moon in Cancer. We're still trying to get answers about what's happened past in our lives and why, what's going on right now and what's happening next. We still don't have them all, and we're confused, and we're really frustrated that we're confused, and we're trying to push answers that we don't have before they're really ready to come here, making us angry and upset at ourselves, or maybe angry and upset at other people, that we don't have the answers in our lives, that they aren't giving us answers, that it is that we might need here, which is challenging. Okay. Not only is that hard, but this same difficult alignment, Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars in Sagittarius, is making a square over here to Neptune in Pisces. Okay, and this is also difficult because it's a square and because we've got Neptune here involved, and Neptune is an outer planet, and sometimes the outer planets are a bit harder for us here on Earth to understand and to work with. So this is even more difficult than that last very difficult alignment I was just talking about here. What is the difficulty with this? Well, Neptune by heart aspect can also bring confusion, which we already know is going on with the Mercury retrograde, but I'm getting an extra dose of confusion here that's happening. Not only can Neptune bring confusion, but Neptune as well by hard aspect can also bring overwhelm, just feeling overwhelmed here, not knowing what to believe, maybe even feeling chaotic. Sometimes Neptune can be the way chaotic, unorganized here when it comes to your life or your thought processes or what's happening. Not only can Neptune bring overwhelm, confusion, feeling chaotic, it can also too bring exhaustion. I'm exhausted. I'm trying so hard to get answers and nothing's happening here. And it can also bring too sadness and nostalgia about the past or things that we lost or things that it is that we're leaving behind here as well. That's going on. That's also very, very difficult here when it comes to this situation here. So not only, right, to continue bringing it together at this full moon in Cancer, are we trying to get answers about our life, what's happened in the past and why, where we are now and what's next here, and we're not getting the answers and we're pushing extra hard to get them, which we aren't ready to get, feeling angry and frustrated and upset at ourselves and others. But this anger and frustration is making everything very chaotic, and it's making everything very sensitive in a lot of ways, and making things even more hazy and exhausted and exasperated here. That again is very challenging. Hey, that then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which is going to be this full moon in Cancer here, of course, which is what this video and this chart is for. Hey, what is that about? Well, again, we talked about at the beginning of this video, the full moon in Cancer is about our emotions and feeling a lot of them, right? Stepping into them. So this is us being way in our feels here at this full moon in Cancer here that's going on. And I think way in our feelings, right? Because we're not getting the answers that we need and we're frustrated. That's going on. Do you see? We want answers. I'm not getting them. I'm trying to get them. I'm not getting them. And I'm trying really hard. And now everything's messy and chaotic and up in the air. And I'm sad and upset, and now full moon, full emotions are coming on here that are being activated here at this time. Not only are we feeling a lot of feels here about our emotions, which I think are unpleasant, but this can also bring a lot of things to the surface about home and family with the full moon in Cancer, about our living space or about our family members and how we interact with our family members. Here too can bring some of that up also front and center to kind of figure out how it fits into all of these other things here too that's going on. Hey, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be Chiron. Hey, Chiron is going direct in Aries within hours after this full moon here. Hey, now this to me is also is meant to be a good thing. Maybe I'll start there because it is going direct. But even though it's meant to be a good thing, I think can be challenging at first, because the first few hours or so when a planet changes directions, it appears to be moving very still in the sky, which can bring extra emphasis to that planet and to what it's about here, and can exacerbate it, especially some of the difficulty around it. And this is Chiron that's involved, which is very difficult by nature, having a lot to do with fears, triggers, vulnerabilities, and insecurities, especially about our identity, with it being in Aries, and our actions, what we want to do next here too. Okay. So to continue bringing this together here, right, we're trying to get answers and clarity about our lives, what's happened in the past, what's going on now, and what we want to do next. And we don't have it, and we're trying extra hard to figure it out. And it's still not working. And we're getting angry, confused, upset about our situation, and feeling exasperated, chaotic, overwhelmed, which is bringing us into our feelings big time, and personal and private matters that may involve home and family, to really figure that stuff out and work that out. And that's triggering Okay, Chiron triggers. That's triggering us big time here, even more, feeling our feelings and going into all this stuff and working out home and family, and maybe even making us more upset and more angry here that nothing's coming together and we have all these feelings and we don't know what to make of it. That can be quite hard here at this time with ourself, again, our emotions, home and family. Okay. But even though that's hard, I think that there is some advice. And now I think I want to shift over into advice that I want to give you here about this full moon in Cancer. And even though that's hard, not only is there some advice, I think there's something good, very good, that can come from all of this. Because even though Chiron can be very triggering here, especially in the first few hours that it's stationed direct, the more time you give it to get up to speed here, it can actually turn very positive over time. It's not going to happen right away. It's going to take a few days. But it can. And when Chiron turns positive, it can actually bring great healing here that is going on at this time. So even though there is a lot of triggers at this full moon in Cancer, and a lot of arguments and anger at ourselves and other people, which could definitely involve home and family here about our life and what's happened in the past or where we're going next and all of this stuff here, even though there's a lot of triggers and frustration here, there is an opportunity to find healing here through that trigger and through those emotions here that is going on that maybe we didn't have before. And not only healing, maybe I'll take it a step further to find insight as well, insight and clarity, and to find the insight and clarity that we were missing, and to find the insight and clarity that we were missing, because this is a full moon, which is very bright about insight here. And because Chiron is shaped like a key, look at the symbol, it's shaped like a key. Keys unlock things, give us access to things that maybe we did not have before. So that also can bring great insight here as well. Hey, not only do I want to mention here with Chiron that, yeah, there's huge triggers, but the triggers can bring great healing here and insight here, but that the great healing and insight, maybe to say it more directly, is coming through the triggers. Do you see? In order to heal, you need to feel uncomfortable deeply a lot of times to really work through that stuff. So it's the triggers that are bringing the healing here through this situation that is possible. Hey, I also want to focus on the healing through the triggers part, even though it's going to come a few days after this full moon too, because the full moon itself is actually in pretty good aspect, in my opinion, here, which is why I didn't want to go in on that first. And it's actually in good aspect here, in my opinion, because we've got this full moon in Cancer here making a trine to Saturn here in the sign of Pisces. And while Saturn is involved here, I do tend to interpret trines a little bit more gently than other aspects here. And Saturn, when more positive, can bring a more stability to a situation here and to working things out in a more constructive type of way. Here that's going on. So I do also think that this might be helpful. What can be the helpful thing? Well, Saturn as well, maybe I need to know, can also be about decisions here too. So what this means to me is that if we make decisions, Saturn, to deal more with our emotions, Pisces, water sign, emotions, Cancer, full moon, making the aspect, water sign. If we can make the decision and the commitment to not shy away from these hard triggering feelings, right, and to go deeper into them, we're going to start to work them out. We're going to start to feel more secure or feel more things come together than we thought here. That's going on here with the answers that it is that we need. Okay, not only that, but I think the next here alignment that I want to mention too is going to be the fact that this full moon in Cancer is making a sextile over here to Jupiter in Taurus, which I also really love, being a sextile, which I always interpret in a positive way, and connecting with Jupiter here, which to me is also positive as well. So this I also like. What is this about? Well, Jupiter is about wisdom. It's about understanding. It's about insight. It's about that clarity that we wanted, that we weren't getting, now finally coming here at this time. And in a very helpful way. And with it being in Taurus, Taurus is about our needs and values in a way that's more aligned with our needs and values, with who we truly are, and with what's important to us here. So the way that this full moon is going, to continue to bring it together before I add one more alignment here, is that we're trying to get answers about our life, what happened in the past, where we are now, and what's going to happen next. We don't have it here, and we're trying to get it, and the answers aren't coming. And we're feeling extra confused and angry because we've been trying to get it and the answers aren't coming, and overwhelmed and chaotic and all over the place and angry and frustrated and messy with ourselves and with others here. That's going on. And that's forcing us deeper into our feelings, obviously, that are very uncomfortable in personal and private matters that maybe we've been neglecting for a while, which could involve home and family, which is very, very, very hard and very, very, very upsetting here. But if we can commit, okay, to not shying away from those hard emotions and to going deeper into the feelings and working through those, real healing can come here in our situation to work things out. And not only can real healing come, but the answers, the insights we've been missing can finally start to come here as well, and can finally start to come here as well in a way that's more aligned with us about why we went through what we went through, what's going on now, and about what we want to happen next, that I think can be very positive. Okay, that then leads me now the last thing I'm going to mention here, and that's going to be Venus. Venus and Scorpio at this time making a trine to Neptune and Pisces here. That's going on. What is this alignment about? Well, Venus, of course, is about our own sense of self. It's also about relationships and money. Here, Scorpio is about what our deepest desires, what we want. It can also be about change. And trines can indicate things happening very quickly. And Neptune can wipe things away or refresh things. So what this means to me is that once we get these insights that we'd really been missing here through going deeper into our emotions, our perspective, I think, in a lot of things will start to shift. Our self, relationships, and money to be very different. And maybe we'll realize that we need to make more adjustments with relationships and money here to end things that aren't working for us and begin other things with relationships and money that are going to be more in our best interest, or to work things out in a different and better way here. That's going on. Okay. And I think that's it. I think that's all I'm going to say for now. Yeah, in terms of this full moon. Okay, because that's all I'm going to say now in terms of the aspects, I'm just going to repeat all of that here one last time without the astrological jargon, so you can get hopefully a better idea of what's happening. So let me do that now. What I think is going on at this full moon in Cancer here is that we're trying to get more answers here about our life, including what happened in the past and why, what's going on right now in our life, and what we want to happen next in our life. And we're still not getting it, and we're pushing extra hard to get it, and they're still not coming, making us confused, frustrated, upset, and angry at ourselves and others, and overwhelmed and exhausted and exasperated here, and everything just chaotic and all of that. And because we're trying so hard to get answers and we're not getting them, and we're just feeling exasperated, we then are being forced, I think, to go deeper into our emotions and our personal and private life and home and family matters that maybe we've been neglecting for a long time, in order to really figure out what's going on there and what we're feeling. And that's triggering us even more than we already were, big time here. That's very, very hard. But if we can commit to working through these triggering emotions, even if they feel uncomfortable, and to sitting with them and working through them, I actually think that great healing can come emotionally and from some of these issues with home and family. And not only can great healing come, but also great wisdom and insight that we'd actually been wanting and missing. That great wisdom and insight can actually come through the honoring of the emotions that can help us get more clarity on our situation and on relationships and money and our own sense of self and who we want to be, and help us make adjustments, better adjustments with more clarity based on the understanding that we're getting with relationships and money to be more in alignment with ourselves and who we are at this time. Okay, that's going on. Okay. And that's it. Hey, thanks for hanging in there with me. I feel like this Mercury retrograde has got my mind going crazy here with some things. So I hope that you all can understand that, despite here the Mercury retrograde messing with my thought processes. But that's what I think is happening. Any other thoughts? Sometimes I like to add just a few other thoughts about what's going on here. Yeah, I'll give you a few other brief thoughts. I've said this before, I think in the past 2 moon videos that I've done for you, but I'm going to say it again here more simply. We're trying to get answers about our life, what's happened in the past, what's going on now in our lives, and what's going to happen next, right? We've been trying to get answers. We haven't been able to get them for the past few weeks or whatever. Okay, why have we not been able to get these answers for the past few weeks? What I've said in the last few videos, I'm going to bring it into this one here. The reason why we haven't been able to get answers the past few weeks is because with the Sagittarius influence, where we were in Sag season here, and with the Mercury and Mars there, we're thinking too Sag. Sag, when unhelpful, can be too big, too big, too big. Our thoughts are too huge. They're not actionable. We're thinking too many ideas here. That's going on at this time. That can also be happening here. Not only that, but with Mercury retrograde did start in Capricorn, maybe we're thinking too negative. Sometimes Capricorn can skew that way here, or too rigid about them, right? That's been the problem that I've already discussed, not in this video, but in other videos here, about why we're not getting the answers that it is that we need here about our life and about our situation, okay? And because those are the reasons why we're not getting clarity, right? We need to address that and tackle these things in order to get the clarity that we need. Well, a month ago, at the full moon in Gemini, we tackled some of those things. A month ago, at the full moon in Gemini, we stopped thinking big, and we stopped thinking with all these too many ideas, and we started thinking smaller, because Gemini is ruled by the smallest planet here, not Jupiter, which is huge, and fewer, because even though Gemini has a lot of ideas, it's usually only 2 instead of 500 that maybe Sag might have here. So we started thinking smaller and simpler here, less ideas. We did that, okay, at the full moon in Gemini, and that helped us. But even though we fix some of the issues at the full moon in Gemini, we didn't fix all of the issues here, which is the thinking too negative here and the thinking too stiff, too rigid. And now the full moon in Cancer happens to fix that. Now the full moon in Cancer happens to say, hey, you need to start thinking a little bit more positively, I think, here, and you need to start thinking less rigid, more about your emotions, more about what you're feeling. And there are no structures to what you're feeling here when it comes to Cancer, less rigid and more about your emotions. And you need to go more that way. Now we start to uncover this at the full moon in Cancer. And it is that last part here that's going to give us the answers and the clarity that it is that we need. It's us fixing that's going to give the answers and clarity that you're missing and bring everything together. So, which is really what this Mercury retrograde has been about. So that's a point here that I want to make sure I carry over from my other videos. The problem with why, to say it again, the problem with why we're not getting clarity and answers about our life, what's happening in the past and all that, we've been thinking too big, too many ideas, too negative, and too rigid about how we can go about these things. We need to stop doing that. And we did half of that last full moon. Now we're doing the other half of that this full moon. Hey, not only do I want to say that here, but I also want to emphasize, right, this last part about the emotions here that's going on, and to really say the emotions are the key here. The emotions are the key to getting the clarity that it is that you need and bringing more of that into the equation here. And that's what needs to happen, and to know that here. Okay, so I want to emphasize that. Not only do I want to emphasize that too, that the emotions are the key now at this point to getting the clarity that it is that you need, but the more, right, you feel your emotions and you get in touch with them, the more answers you're going to have, or the better answers you're going to have, or the more clarity you're going to get, or the sooner you're going to get the clarity. I want to note that too here. Not only do I want to note that, but I want to say it in the converse. Not only the more you get in touch with your feelings and feel your feelings, are you going to get the clarity, more clarity, sooner clarity, but the less you feel your feelings and the more you shy away from them here, the clarity is not going to come, or not going to be full, or not going to be to the extent that you need it in. The emotions are super super important here. The more and the deeper you go with those, the more you're going to get the clarity that it is that you need. And the less you go, the more confused and stuck you're going to feel here at this time here that's going on, and to make sure that you go all the way with your emotions here. Okay, and to not back out, because I know how sometimes that gets when we feel a feeling and we're like, oh, that's uncomfortable, I want to push it away. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't say, I feel a feeling, it's uncomfortable, I want to push it away. You really need to go deeper and to explore. I feel uncomfortable. Why? I feel uncomfortable. What is it telling me? I feel uncomfortable. What does my emotions need for me here in order to move forward? You got to go deeper here with that. Another thought that I want to say too is that we all sometimes think of emotions as like a light, pretty thing. I think maybe sometimes in the world, that's what we think, or emotions are silly or things like that. But emotions are not always light and pretty and silly. Some of them can actually be very deep and very dark and very uncomfortable here. Sure, because of what Chiron's doing and Mars is doing at this full moon, but also too, because in some ways that is the nature of Cancer. Cancer is the lowest part of the chart. The darkest part. It rules the midnight hour when everything is dark outside here. So I also want to note as well that, yeah, there's a need to go deeper into your feelings and to feel more of them and to understand what those are and to not back off and shy away from that. But there's also a need to realize that a lot of times when you go deeper into your feelings, they're not pretty. There's a lot of things that may be dark there that are hidden that you don't want to see here, that we need to shine a light on with this full moon and see in order to work through them here that's going on. So please keep that in mind here too. We kind of need to go deeper into our emotions and feel these things in order to get some of the answers. And not only is that what I want to say here, but another thing I want to note too is that in reality, this is what, in my opinion, this whole year has been about. Okay, 2023, especially since April, this whole year, in my opinion, even though we've talked about other things here and there in these videos, this whole year has truly been about our emotional expression and has truly been about understanding our emotions, honoring our emotions, not seeing them as silly, but seeing them as something real to be honored and expressed and dealt with here. That's really what this whole year has been about. And I believe that this whole year has been about that because of Pluto at the last degrees of Capricorn about to leave. Hey, and I do Evolutionary Astrology by Jeffrey Wolf Green, which emphasizes the opposite point of Pluto being the more helpful point that we're trying to grow and transform towards. Okay, and the opposite point of which I think is coming in heavily now, I need to note at this time, because Pluto's about to leave a sign, right? And when Pluto's about to leave the sign, we're going to get the final lessons here of all of these things. And the opposite point of Pluto, which is part of the final lesson, is in Cancer, where this full moon is, which is about honoring our emotions here at this time. So I also want to tie it all together here. This is the lesson of 2023. Everything that's happened to you, I think, is to get you to honor your emotions, to feel your feelings, whether they make sense or not, and to really figure out how to work with those in better ways, and to kind of forget the preconceived notions that it is that you've had. Okay, not only do I want to mention that as well, that this really is the whole point of the year, now trying to come to a culmination here in a fever pitch, so to speak. But I also want to note too that this is the whole point of the year, because with Pluto been in Capricorn for so long, we've ignored our emotions for so long. That's what tends to happen with Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto takes our focus too much to an area, and Capricorn, there are no emotions. When you get too extreme Capricorn is all business, all work, all structure, all boundaries, doesn't care about your feelings, got stuff to do here. And so I think for a very long time, we've ignored our emotions, and that's what's gotten us into the mess since 2020. That's what's gotten us into the mess, well, really before 2020, that's what's gotten us into the mess of living a life that we didn't really like or that didn't really connect with us. Because when you ignore your emotions, you do things that maybe make logical sense or seem practical, but don't always feel right, because our feelings aren't always emotional. Our feelings don't always make sense. So I think that's another thought here too. This is the whole lesson of this year, is honoring your emotions. And it's an extremely important lesson because we haven't been doing it. for a long time since Pluto entered Capricorn, which was 2010, somewhere right around there. We haven't been doing it for a long time. And ignoring our emotions is what's created the whole problem that got us into an experience in life we didn't like, that since 2020 that we've been trying to get out of. Okay. Not only do I want to note too that this is the whole point of this year and the whole problem about why we didn't like our life and needed to change it here and to get into something else that's better for us, but I also want to note here as well that that this is the key to creating better experiences after this point as well. Right? Because how can we be going into a better experience of life, which I've been talking about is what we've been doing since 2020. How can we go into a better experience of life if we don't really honor our emotions? And if we don't really know what our emotions is saying, can we really say an experience of life is better if we don't feel connected to it? What brings these value judgments is our emotions a lot of times. What makes something better is our emotions. If we didn't have any emotions, what is better? Things are not better, they're just different. So that's another thing here too. Not only do we have to bring our emotions in, because that's been the problem for the past few years, getting us into all these situations we didn't like that we need to escape, but because that's what's going to fix things after this point and get us into better experiences or more connected that we don't want to escape. And that feel more true to us here. That's moving on. So super big, super key lesson here that it is that we're learning. Yeah, I've mentioned things. Yeah, I have mentioned things a little earlier this year, a few months ago here, about learning to get rid of overworking and overproving ourselves and hesitation and relying too much on other people. Yeah, sure. That's some of the lessons too, but this to me is the focal one, the central one that kind of ties a lot of the other stuff together. Okay. Another thing that I want to note here too. What else do I want to say, right? The home and family component is super interesting, right? Especially because this is happening on the holidays, it's so close to Christmas here. I want to note another thing. This can bring a lot of triggers up here this Christmas as well about home and family here, whatever that means, places that you live or family matters here. Things going on with family, difficulties with family. It can bring up a lot of things there too here that can be very difficult and can create some sort of arguments, and to be aware of that here at this time. Okay, not only do I want to say that, to be aware of that, but I also want to say too is that even though that may be very hard and very difficult to feel triggered about home and family or have some difficult arguments or discussions with home and family here, I want to note that through feeling the feelings which look more painful, right, that healing can come from it here over time, and that maybe the home and especially the family members can be that mirror back to us here about what we're really feeling and what really needs to happen, and to keep that in mind. And I think there's a feeling that I'm like arguing with myself that I can feel is like, what do I want to recommend? What do I want to recommend this holiday season, right? Do I want to recommend that some of you avoid family or all of that? And I think my feeling here is that I think there's a need to feel I don't feel like avoiding family is the issue, right? And I don't feel like avoidance is the thing here. I feel like there's a need to confront and face. And the full moons will do that, right? Full moons will put things in your face to be dealt with here and to make decisions about. Full moons, when the moon is very bright, are not a time to hide, and pretend everything's okay. Full moons are more in your face. They're more wild. So I almost want to say here that even though the family situations can be very triggering this holiday, I think that if you confront them, or whatever that means to you, confront them or face them here head on, that's actually where the greatest gift, we're talking about Christmas, the greatest gift and healing can come from is from facing it instead of avoiding it. I also want to note as well, maybe this is another thought here too that I just want to add, is that sometimes we think of arguments as being a bad thing and feeling triggered as being a bad thing, but sometimes arguments and feeling triggered is weirdly a good thing. Maybe this is a North Node in Aries message I'm going to give you here with the Mars going on, but sometimes having disagreements and feeling triggered can be a good thing because it can really help you see yourself, you know, and understand yourself and what's important to you and what's not important to you and who you really are. So I think the next, and maybe this is the final thought I'll leave here with you, is that, yeah, there's a lot of potential for arguments with home and family this holiday here, which can be very uncomfortable. And I think there's a need to face these things head on and to not shy away from them and to realize that conflict sometimes can be a good thing. And conflict can sometimes be a good thing to help you learn about what's important to you and to refine your situation, or to eventually bring healing where healing is needed here, and to realize that healing can come in weird ways and gifts can come in weird ways here as well, and to see maybe some of the disagreements as more positive steps toward growth instead of things that may hold you back. Okay. Because it's the emotions, right? Because maybe another thought here, because it's the emotions, Cancer, the full moon is in Cancer, our emotions that are what's missing, that's going to bring things into place. And a lot of times it's our home and family, which Cancer also has to do with, that triggers the emotions. And that brings us into that emotional space to really understand what those are, you know? And so that's why they're related here. If we want to recover our emotional expression, we also need to work some things out with home and family, where a lot of our core emotions are tied up in here a lot of the times, in order to really figure things out there that's going on. Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts? Now, sure. What are your, and another thought here too, when you go more into your emotions, which is obviously a crucial part of this full moon, what exactly are you going to realize after this point here about your life and what's happened and what's next and all of that, other than that you need to think smaller, simpler, you know, and more in tune with your emotions? What are they going to tell you? You know, I can't really, I don't think, get more detailed than this, you know. I think that your emotions are going to tell you all different things, and that's because, you know, emotions are very personal. Cancer is very personal here, and very personal to each of you and in what's going on. So once you honor your emotions and you start thinking smaller and simpler about your life and your next steps, and more in tune with what you're feeling and more positive, I think then your emotions are each going to tell you something different about your life and your next steps. And that's not for me to say, that's up for you to figure out, you know, here about what that is. You know, maybe your emotions are going to tell you that you want to do something else for work, or that you need to try another strategy here with work, or that you want to do something different with family. You know, I can't tell you that. That's personal to each of you. You need to figure that out yourself. But what I can tell you is that the more you go into your emotions, that's going to get you the answers that you need, that you'll know when you get them here, to get you thinking in a smaller and simpler and much better direction here about your experience. Okay, and I think that's it. That's all I'm going to say there, because that's it. I'm now just going to take a look at your inside degrees. I think I'm just going to read one degree here, because I know this video has gone on kind of long. So I'm just going to do that. And I think the degree that really stands out to me is going to be 4 degrees Cancer. Now the full moon is at, the full moon is at 4 degrees Cancer, but the one that stands out to me the most is 3 degrees Cancer. So that's the one I'm going to read here. 4 and 5 can also be relevant, because of course the planets are in motion here, but I just like 3 the best, so that's the one that I'm going to look at. And again, these inside degrees were not written by me, they were written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings of the degrees from Spirit, which I like a lot. But I'm going to look at Cancer, 3 degrees. It says, a self-schooling and using the mind appropriately. You are learning how to dump overboard all preconceptions, all belief systems, every opinion based on previous experience. Okay, I want to stop here at this first line, because that's been a big part of the interpretation, right? With all these planets in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is about our belief systems. And that's what that's our core problem this past few weeks has been, what do I believe about my life, what's happened, where I am now, and what I want next? That's been the core problem here that's been going on. And it's suggesting to me that this full moon in Cancer is about releasing a lot of these old beliefs that no longer work here is part of it. And it brings another aspect of this full moon in Cancer about what's going on. Cancer has to do with our emotions. And when you deal in the realm of emotions, there is no such thing as right or wrong, and there is no structure. Your emotions feel good one day, they don't feel good the next. There's no rhyme or reason to it in a lot of ways. And the emotions don't care about what you believed in the past. So I think that's another thought here too, is that the more we honor our emotions at this full moon, which is the key to unlocking so many things here, even if it's uncomfortable, it's going to help us let go of a lot of old ideas that have been stopping us and creating confusion here. Okay, let's read on. It says, you are discovering how to think and act from a disinterested, steady, and cool vantage point, and you are one-pointedly intent upon grasping the central message that what you weighed down by negative bias, by apprehension, and by dark conviction comes back to haunt you 1,000-fold, while what you set free by precise and accurate readouts and follow through becomes such a blessing that you swim in it forever. Okay. What stands out to me about this sentence here is discovering how to think and act from a disinterested, steady, and cool vantage point. A lot of people, I think, see, sure, I talked about this a bit earlier, see emotions as maybe being something silly or stupid or annoying here. And they do change a lot, but I actually believe that emotions make you stronger here instead of weaker. And I think that's a lot of what Cancer is about, because Cancer is not just about our emotions and home and family. It's about our foundation in life. That's why it correlates to our home, our foundation in life. And when you have a strong emotional foundation, not talking about actual home, but when you have a strong emotional foundation within yourself and where you feel strong enough emotionally, it's easier to be cool and collected and calm and disinterested, because what's important to you, who you are, and that's that. And anything can happen to you outside. Anything can happen outside of you, but because you know who you are, you're going to be still and steady inside. And so I think that's another thing here that's trying to happen at this full moon in Cancer here. The more we honor our emotions, right, and get in touch with those, we're going to release all these preconceived ideas and beliefs of how we should be, to get the answers and the clarity we need about what's next. And not only that, but we're going to become more clear-headed, more steady, more cool, because we're not going to be dragged down by our subconscious thoughts and behaviors, and we're going to be more aware of who we are and what we're feeling, and more able to work with those, okay? And more able to grasp the central message, okay, of what we need in our situation to stop being weighed down by negative bias, right? Okay. Let's read on. By witnessing exhaustively just how negative intent and affirmative intent work, intelligence is refined to the utmost, and the approach taken is optimized quintessentially and exquisitely. So to me, that indicates answers and clarity coming here if we allow ourselves to go into the emotions here. Okay. And I think that's all I'm going to say there. Okay. And the emotions are key. It's going to help us to get rid of outdated ideas, beliefs, situations that no longer serve us here anymore, and to feel stronger within ourselves and more steady and get the answers that we need and the clarity about our next steps. Okay, so I'm going to say there, because that's it, I'm now just going to go ahead and pull your card. So let me do that. Your card here is the Six of Swords reversed, and at the bottom of the deck we've got the Two of Wands upright. The Six of Swords here upper right is about moving on here, coming out of a hard time into a better time, but I did pull it reversed, and this means is that instead of us just moving on from some of our struggles and forgetting about them. There's a need to really stay present with our struggles and our challenges and to face them head on before moving forward. That's happening. I think that's the message that I'm getting, because again, there may be a tendency to not want to deal with our emotions. I don't want to deal with home. I don't want to deal with family. I don't want to deal with these issues. I don't want to deal with that. To ignore and avoid the difficult emotions. There may be a tendency, and I think the message I'm getting is, in order to move forward here, you need to go backwards and deal with some pain and hurt and some emotions fully before you can move forward. Here, that's happening. Hey, another thought that I want to offer here is, right, that may make you feel like your life is going backwards instead of forwards, right? Because you have to go back to deal with the issues instead of run away from them in order to bring it together. And that's okay. Sometimes we need to feel like we're going backwards here a bit in order to go forwards. Another thing too that I find is interesting about this card, sure, it is a swords card, but it's a boat in the water here. And I think that's interesting because the swords can be about intellect, which the insight degree did mention, and the water can be about water signs, Cancer here. So I think another thing too that we need to learn is how to work with the water, like he's rowing, how to work with our emotions once we feel them deeply, how to work with our emotions instead of against them here, because that's where the real intelligence and answers and clarity about our situation here is going to come, and maybe even some of the impartiality with the Two of Wands at the bottom of the deck, and twos to me can indicate more impartial thinking. Here that's going on. Not only that, but we've got the Two of Wands to me can also indicate choices. And I did say earlier there is something about full moons that are about choices here. So I think the sense now to bring the cards together is that we need to go, there's something uncomfortable emotionally going on here, and we need to deal with those deeply and fully, those negative emotions, instead of run away here. That's going on, and to feel those, even if it feels like we're taking a step backwards or in the wrong direction. And while we're dealing with those emotions, we really need how to learn how to work with the negative emotions instead of against them. And once we do that, that's going to give us some insight. That's going to help us make some better decisions. Going to help us make some better decisions about home and family, about our emotions, and about what to do next in life after this point here. That it is that we need, and bring that clarity. That's going to be, of course, unique to each one of us about what happened. So that's what I'm going to say there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I wish you all the best this holiday season, and I will talk to you 2 weeks from now at the new moon in Capricorn.